Okay, let's have a look at the video, shall we?
Hello, travelers. My name is Judd Kobler, game director for Last Epoch and founder of 11th Hour Games. I want to welcome all of our new community members joining us for the official launch of Last Epoch.
Hi, new
and give
players.
a huge thank you to all of you who have been with us throughout early access. Because of your tremendous support, we're launching a game that was just a dream not too long ago, and we're extremely excited to share it with all of you.
So am I, Judd, so am I.
Last Epoch began as an after-hours passion project founded by a Reddit post in 2017. A group of us ARPG enthusiasts banded together and set off on our dream to create the next great loot-based action RPG.
Look how far it's
This was
come.
to be a game made by us players who were passionate about the genre and would always listen to the community that plays these games as their hobby. Because that's who we are
the
too.
game used to look like.
That was a pretty lofty goal, considering we had absolutely no funding. The majority of our early founders had never worked in the games industry, and we were mostly just die-hard action RPG fans,
now look at
wanting to ensure that our hobby had a
the
bright
lighting
future.
system does
Through
a lot
Kickstarter
of
and the
work.
support of our incredible community, we've grown from a development team of just 5 or 6 to over 90 people from across the world who've banded together through a love of collecting loot and building awesome heroes. Our unconventional studio has been able to achieve things that typically require much larger companies, and I attribute that
this
to
the
our
wall-up?
team's
'Cause I haven't
intense
seen the
collective
wall-up.
desire to make the next great action RPG, the game that we want to play as fans for all of us. We're incredibly excited that in just a couple days we'll be launching the 1.0 version of Last Epoch, marking the beginning of our journey with you in the world of Eterra. A world where we plan to release new powers to discover, gods to slay, loot to find, and in-game challenges to conquer for years to come.
Oh, it looks
For
so
those of
good
you
now.
who are brand new, Last Epoch is a loot-based, top-down action RPG where you will travel through time in a desperate attempt to save the fated world of Eterra. Along your journey, you will choose to ascend into one of 15 different mastery classes, each with unique skills, passives, and playstyles, as you take on divine gods, immortal empires, and the all-devouring void. In Last Epoch, you'll find over 125 class skills, each with its own
So many.
customizable and transformative skill tree.
Customizable.
You'll find a deep loot system with over 300
Player
unique
agency.
items, each
I
with
love
its
it.
own build-defining power you won't find anywhere else. Powerful idols that fit strategically into your inventory, and
they've
our renowned
changed how
legendary
the
system,
tooltips look,
which can
right?
take even the most unassuming
They look
uniques
so
and
clean.
turn them into the most powerful items in the game. You'll need all of that power at your disposal when you enter our expansive in-game that includes ancient dungeons, an endless ranked arena of champions, and shattered timelines in the monolith of fate. If you're new to the world of Last Epoch, you've picked the perfect time to jump in. We've made sure that Last Epoch is a game that you can dive into without any prior information. But if you're looking for help, there are a ton of great
Honestly,
starter
the
guides
new
made by our
lighting does
awesome
so much.
community of content creators who have put in a lot of effort into providing entertaining
Never
and informative
underestimate how
content for
light
Last
and
Epoch
shadow
fans.
can make things
There's
really
also
pop.
an in-game guide that provides you all the information you need to go from a beginner to having an advanced understanding of the game. Now let's talk about what's new in Last Epoch. The full release of Last Epoch brings about the final remaining 2 masteries, the Falconer and the Warlock. The Falconer emerges as the 3rd mastery for the Rogue, showcasing an impressive command of tactical traps and deadly falconry. With her
Falconer
fierce
OP.
avian companion, she weaves through the battlefield with quick wits and unscrupulous tactics, forging an unbreakable bond with her falcon ally through the falconry skill. Initiating falcon strikes and deploying skills like dive bomb and aerial assault, the Falconer brings tactical chaos to the battlefield,
thing I love about the Falconer
leaving her
is
enemies
everything about
unsure
it
of
seems
what they should
strong.
fear next, the Talon
There's
or the
some
Blade.
things that are absolutely broken.
Along with the new class comes some
But
exciting new unique
everything
items
is
that empower
strong.
new playstyles if you're lucky enough to find them. Today, I want to show off Falcon Fists. This rare unique lets you dive all in on empowering your Falcon's attacks while turning your melee hits into an explosive Falcon punch.
That item's
Finally,
broken.
stepping out of the darkness is the
We'll get to that in the
long-awaited
blog,
Warlock,
but I think that
a
item
new
is
class
broken.
mastery for the Acolyte, set on tearing into the essence of her foes, twisting and corrupting their spirits. The Warlock wields an arsenal of new curses, each uniquely designed to dim the mind, break the body, and inflict pain. Rain down chaos
Kinky.
bolts, feast on the souls of your enemies, and break open the ground, unleashing destructive necrotic energy and unyielding undead husks.
Warlock actually
What
looks
Warlock is
super
complete
fun.
without an arsenal of unique items to curse and corrupt their foes? One such treasure is quite literally the spine of your enemies, turning
That
your
looks
chthonic
super
fissure
strong
into a
as
set
well.
of rapidly striking flame whips. The Warlock and Falconer aren't the only travelers who will be wielding new skills in Eterra. The Primalist is adding 2 new powerful skills to his arsenal: Gathering Storm, which calls down bolts of lightnings upon the enemies around you, and a redesigned Tempest Strike, which wields the power of wind, frost, and thunder, with all three elements coming to bear at the tip of your weapon. The Paladin is receiving a powerful new skill tree to complete his divine arsenal. In addition to erupting holy judgment and protecting allies with auras and sigils, the Paladin will harness the power of healing hands, a skill capable of keeping allies alive as well as burning the evil out from the enemies of Atera, especially the undead and void abominations. We continue to improve, update, and strengthen every mastery in Atera. Countless skills have been rebalanced and modified. Our current page count for balance and updates is clocking in at 32 pages. You can find all of the details on our forums. I'm excited to share with you the immense amount of visual and gameplay feel improvements coming with the full release of Last Epoch. For 1.0, we have overhauled and updated all of our character rigs and every single character animation in the game. This means that characters move more dynamically, their attack animations feel more impactful, and individual character identities and movements are able to shine through. You will also notice interface enhancements everywhere you look. We've taken a lot of time to improve the user interface visuals and provide better information across the game.
Dungeon icon looks a wee bit different.
We've made big updates to lighting and shadows, with new tech that will be immediately noticeable to all returning Last Epoch players and tremendously improves the overall visual quality of the game. Additionally, we've added scene variants, which introduces random weather, season, and vegetation visuals throughout the echoes of the monolith.
That's really
We're
cool.
also bringing many new and updated enemies to the world of Atera that you will find all throughout the game, including in mini campaign zones that have had significant updates. You'll notice wolves, bears, saber-tooths, and more have been updated, and of course, for you Primeless players, your companions are no exception. For combat, we've made many improvements in addition to animation updates, including improved damage numbers that react to the direction of impact, increased hit sounds in the audio mix, brought back screen shake settings, and increased the visual weight of some hit effects. This has combat feeling better than ever. We've added a significant amount of new 2D and 3D visuals for character gear and items, including new item tooltips that truly showcase the outstanding loot in Atera. Earlier this year, we released information on our much anticipated item factions system, and we are excited to see players get to experience this for the very first time with this release. Will you choose to align with the Merchants Guild and gain access to the bustling bazaar and an economy of travelers and trade, all collectively bargaining and hunting for the best items Atera has to offer? Or will you join the Circle of Fortune, set your sights to the stars, and increase your chances of finding the ultimate weapons and armor through prophecy? Either way you choose to hunt for incredible items in Last Epoch, you won't have to worry about your friends losing out on the perfect upgrade that happens to drop for them while they're away. With the new resonance system, you will have a chance to gain resonance with your friends who you fight alongside. Using a resonance will allow you to gift items directly to your friends, but be sure to be picky as resonances are powerful resources. Our full release is also bringing a staggering amount of balance updates, new unique items, new item affixes, new item bases, and much more. If you'd like to learn everything that is coming in Last Epoch 1.0, please visit our patch notes on the forum using the link in the description down below. Once again, I want to sincerely thank all of you from the bottom of our hearts. We are a team formed from the ARPG community, and to be able to make it this far with Last Epoch and share this creation with you is a dream come true. We cannot wait for you to experience the full release and the awesome plans we have for the future. We'll see you in Atera on February 21st.
You know what? That really shines through in the game that they've made, them being people from the action RPG community. Because, like, for example, I'm pretty certain the vast majority of the Diablo 4 team have played Diablo 3, maybe Diablo 2 Resurrected, and then that's about as far as their knowledge goes of the genre, and they've barely looked at their competitors to see what they're doing, to see what people like about those games, and then thought of ways to bring it into their game to make it better. Much like how PoE did. PoE 2 has straight up looked at Last Epoch and gone, oh, Last Epoch are doing this trade system, it's instant trade, blah, blah, blah. We're now going to get an auction house style instant buyout thing for PoE 2, which is huge. People have been begging for that. And because of Last Epoch, they've gone, you know what? We need to do that as well. We're going to do our own spin of it, maybe a better version. We're going to do something, and we've been inspired by one of our competitors. Likewise, in PoE 2, you're going to be able to buy respecs with gold. No more having to farm 1 billion regrets at endgame, or if you're in the campaign and you fuck up, you're basically stuck with re-rolling. That's no longer going to be a problem in PoE2. And it's thanks to Last Epoch, because they are people who play action RPGs and don't limit themselves to their one vision of their one franchise, of the one game kind of thing, and they take ideas from other people. And that really, really shows, because they've added so many like really nice quality of life improvements, like the loot filter system, the crafting system, things like that, the trade system. They've really looked at what their players want and have tried to get ahead of it, rather than the philosophy it seems to be with Diablo 4. It's like, we've designed a thing based on the anecdotal bullshit we put together on our team. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's what it feels like sometimes. And then they fix it after the fact. Like, most of the improvements that have been brought to Diablo 4 since going live have been due to feedback from the community saying you did it wrong in the first place, basically, and they've had to fix it, rather than just, here's an entirely new idea we've come up with, and then the community reacting to it and going, oh wow, that's great. It's, no, that's bad, this is why it's bad, but here's how you can make it good. And then they do what the community says, and then suddenly it's good. You know, do you see what I mean? Like, the different approach, you can really feel it from EHD, that they know their shit. And that's why I think they've become so beloved so very quickly. Like, people have always, like, generally, I think that there's going to be some people out there who have issues with a developer for X, Y, and Z reason. Oh, they didn't do the thing I specifically wanted, regardless of how that affects other things in the game, and therefore they're bad and they don't listen. It's like, no, they clearly do listen. They clearly know and get a feel for the things that they're implementing and get outside feedback, like, as soon as possible, not after the fact, and, you know, get it to a place where it feels good for the players. So, enough gushing about EHG there, but I think it makes sense. If there's the logic, the players will fix it. I mean, I'm actually thinking of doing an essay, a video essay about Diablo 4, and the concept of it will be to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good being things that they have done well. They have done things in the game that I think are exceptional, like the engine. I actually really like the engine in Diablo 4. I think it's a very beautiful looking engine. The combat does feel impactful and great. That's something they've really nailed. It's just a shame that a lot of everything else is bad. And I've said before as well, like, Diablo 4, if it was a game like Diablo 3, where you buy it, you play it, maybe you make one or two characters, and then you go, that was nice, I had fun, I'm going to go play Hello Kitty Adventure now, then that would be a good Diablo game. But it's not a buy-to-play game, it's a live service game. So you're buying it, you're then paying for all the monetization bullshit that comes with it, and then all the things that they've designed and all the features would work for a game that you only play once or twice. Like, a key example is the stash space. How on earth did an action RPG developer make a game and not think that the available stash space at launch was only going to be enough for one character? Like, that's all it takes. 4 tabs are immediately devoured by your first character because of all the loot and shit that you're picking up. And they seem really adamant that a loot filter is, like, unnecessary and kind of stupid and not worth their time, despite the fact that every single action RPG enjoyer is like, no, yeah, you don't understand, do you? Do you not see the bullshit on the ground, and we have to pick up every single item to identify what it is first in our inventory to then sell it because it turns out it's garbage and doesn't have any of the stats we want? And they just don't seem to get that, and it's just, the approach is bizarre to me. How much of the original D4 team made it through the whole production run? I mean, we are very aware that Diablo 4 technically was in development for a number of years before it was even announced, and that they did kind of start from scratch at least once. I think it might have been twice. I suspect a lot of the people that were involved are also from the Diablo 2 Resurrected team, which is Blizzard Albany, formerly Vicarious Visions. So I feel like the people who... I suspect the people that came up with the really good shit are the people from Vicarious Visions, because they would have had a lot of experience with Diablo 2. And Diablo 2 is like the grandfather of action RPGs. Sure, you had Diablo 1 before it, but when Diablo 2 came out, it added a more in-depth itemization system. There's arguably better itemization and better crafting. Not a lot of people know about what types of crafting there is in Diablo 2, because there is a lot more than just add socket to gem, add runes and make a rune word. There is more to it than that. Diablo 2 literally has more depth to its itemization, to its crafting. In a way, you could argue potentially the skill tree than both Diablo 3 and Diablo 4, because they went in another direction. Whereas in Diablo 3, it was a buy-to-play game. There was no expectation of DLC expansions down the line. They cancelled the second expansion, for example, and the seasons were there because people liked ladders in Diablo 2. There was no expectation for additional content, etc. So they made the game super, super casual, super, super accessible, super, super simple, which worked to sell copies of the game. It sold millions of copies. It was one of the best-selling games in the world. Like, that is a matter of fact. It was in the top 10 best-selling games in the world at the time. And the reason for that is because everyone could get into it, everyone could play it, and then they left when they were done with it, and that wasn't a problem. And they've looked at Diablo 3 and then taken that same approach and applied it to a game where they're supposed to retain players, to have them play for as long as possible. It's a live service. A live service is intended by design to almost be its own hobby on its own, you know? So you got people who play the game for a week and then they piss off and then maybe come back like 3 months later if the patch is good enough, kind of thing. They don't try and design the game to retain players, to make them want to make alternative characters, second, third, fourth characters, try different builds. If anything, they decentivize it because of the way the loot system works. And I could go on about this for days, and this is why I want to do I've forgotten what the terminology I used, but I want to do a video essay about it, but it's going to probably be massive. I have toyed with the idea of breaking it down, but then I think it'll be disjointed. But I'm probably going to make just a massive video. So if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube, do subscribe, because you can get a really cool video where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly is like fundamental things that I think is wrong. Like, I think the world tier system in Diablo 4 is monumentally stupid and arbitrary, and I want to explain why I think that. Like, everything that a difficulty system is supposed to achieve, the world tier system does not achieve. It is so pointless, and I want to go into loads of detail about it and explain it. There's just so much. Like, I had a really long think about it the other day, and I thought there's so much wrong with this game, and it seems so obvious to me as well. Like, when you really think about it, like for stuff like that, and it's just like, okay, so you added difficulty because you want people to be able to customize the difficulty that they can play, either because they have an accessibility issue or because they want to seek a challenger. However, you have to do every single difficulty and you're locking content behind the difficulty. So if you do have an accessibility issue, you can't even like lower the difficulty because you literally prevent yourself from getting fucking uniques. Why can't you get uniques before level fucking 50? That doesn't even make sense. It just drives me crazy. But anyway, enough about that. I'm sure maybe, hopefully one day they'll fix it. Let's talk about a game that doesn't really need fixing, and they're doing really, really well. Let's talk about Last Epoch. So, welcome everyone to the patch notes for Last Epoch 1.0. It's been an amazing road to this point, and it's unreal to be writing patch notes without using the term beta patch. With this patch, Last Epoch will officially be leaving early access. We couldn't have made it to this point without all of you, our amazing community, driving the world of Terra alongside us. We cannot say it enough. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for giving us a good game. We also want to mention again here to prepare for the servers. Yes, the servers will be going down for quite a chunk tomorrow to patch, and they should be back up for me tomorrow at 5 p.m. GMT. Obviously, you're going to have to look up at what time that is for you, and I'm not going to do it for you. So, while the servers are down, authentication will not be possible. If you're already playing in an offline mode before we take down the servers, you should be able to continue your play session. However, offline will not be able to authenticate to log in once the servers are down. This is a good point to note that one of the features being added with 1.0 is a true offline mode, which will prevent this kind of interference with offline mode in the future. That's really cool. Can we talk about the offline mode a second? I'm really glad there is an offline mode. One of the arguments that's constantly put forward in a lot of games, again by Blizzard especially as well, to not have an offline mode is it can make it easier to try and hack the online mode because there's going to be information in the client that you can ascertain and try and use that to infiltrate the server version of the game, things like that. EHG's stance on it, as far as I know, in terms of that argument is get better protection for our servers. Like, if we can give people the means to not need to be online, which is quite big outside of like heavily developed countries. So like if you're in the UK, you probably don't need it. In a lot of the US, you probably don't need it. There are exceptions to that as well. There's literally entire states with horrible internet infrastructure and stuff like that. So you get to play offline. There is not a dedicated online only mode. It does say something about authentication. I assume that you would still be able to play without being connected to the internet, which is kind of the point. If you've got no internet access, you can still play the game. So with that assumption in mind, I think that's really, really cool. There is another argument that some people, and this is very, if anything, very content creator like focused. I don't think it's a problem for me personally, but there are people concerned that, say they released a new pinnacle boss or something, you could go into offline mode, use a what did you used to call them, trainers? You could download a trainer which would basically hack your character, and then you could immediately appear at that boss and then make videos at that boss before anyone's organically reached it. Yeah, you could. I don't care. Like, I don't care. That doesn't take away from my experience. I feel like, yeah, if there's a community race and then someone's like, this is what the boss looks like, like, that's somewhat diminishing, but again, not really enough for me to give a shit, to be honest. Mode report, or if it's locked off. I'm curious if reattaching to the online mode will report, or if it's locked off, how report back. How do you mean? With that aside, let's get to the patch notes, blah, blah, blah. In 2 days, patch 1.0 will be marking the release of Last Epoch, introducing item factions, the Warlock Mastery, Falcon Mastery, Gathering Storm, a reworked Tempest Strike, Healing Hands, skill tree, balance changes, bug fixes, new music, sounds. Sorry, I actually think the music in Last Epoch is pretty good. Sounds, animations, models, and more. Once again, we've provided a table of content below to help you navigate the patch notes. Oh my god. There's so many. Ugh. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it, chat. Believe. If you make progress offline, does going online catch your account back up? No, it's two separate servers. So your offline characters are completely separate to your online characters. You won't be able to like migrate them across or update them or anything like that. It's one or the other. Same way with Diablo 2, if you ever played that. If you played single player or offline, you had an offline mode. They did actually have something called Open Battle.net, which allowed players to go onto Battle.net but not play with dedicated online characters. It was your offline characters, but of course everyone's characters were hacked and crazy and insane. Carbot did a video on it. If you like Carbot animations, go hunt that down. Diablo 2 PvP, I think it was called, or something like that. But yeah, it's something you don't commonly see nowadays because most people just hack their characters and then go, let's play PvP, and then destroy each other, kind of thing. But yeah, so that's what Ganders, the Falconer. So obviously we've got the bleed build, !bleed or !bloody bird in the chat on Twitch if you want to see what that build is. I suspect some of these things that I have spec'd into are probably going to get nerfed. There's already one node that they are straight up disabling. It just won't work because it is kind of broken. I still think that the bleed build is going to be viable. If anything, it's just no longer going to be broken. So let's see what they do. Let's see what happens. Let's have a good time. So the Falconer added a third row class, blah, 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 mastery. We already know this, so unless it's been changed, that's just to give you a rundown of what it looks like. So, okay, so we're going to skip this bit. I do want to one day have a look at the Warlock, but the Warlock's going to be months down the line for me. Item factions, we do know about that. I'll be doing the Merchants Guild on live. I am going to try out Circle of Fortune at one point, but Merchants Guild, it's going to be really nice to just do an economy for the first time. It's very rare that I get to go into the launch of a game and the economy is immediately there and you get to indulge in that. Plus, I'm probably going to be very good at the Merchants Guild because I obviously have played the game longer than most of the players, so I'm already going to be aware of what's valuable and what isn't. So I can be like, ooh, someone listed that way too cheap, thanks, kind of thing. So it is going to be in the upper district of the Great Mercantile City, Majelka. Okay, cool. So that is Act 9. So that confirms a lot of theories a lot of people had, and how to do the... what do you call it? The like the speed strats for leveling up, which is basically 1 to 4, then skip to Act 9. You can join and leave the factions at any time, and this is about hardcore and stuff, so I want to read this. is never lost or spent and is also shared across your account in that game mode. This means if you rank up one character to Circle of Fortune rank 7 on Hardcore Cycle, any of your Hardcore Cycle characters upon joining Circle of Fortune will both share and contribute to the same rank progression. This is huge. And I bet one of the things they learned from this is, as I was saying earlier, they've looked at competitors and they saw that no fucker wanted to level up renown again and again and again in Diablo 4. And they were like, they're not going to want to do that with this trade system. So once it's unlocked, it's unlocked. So that's cool. Characters in a different game mode, such as Solo Challenge or Normal Cycle, do have their reputation separated in the same way the player item stash is. Once one of your characters within a given game mode has joined an item faction, subsequent characters in that game mode are able to join a faction at Keeper's Camp in Chapter 1. Ooh, okay, cool. Ah, interesting. So you don't even have to get to Act 9 on your other characters to kick it in. So once you've done it and opened it and leveled it up, you make a second character, you talk to a cheeky chappy in Act 1 on your second character, and you go, hello, I want to be a Merchant's Guild. Thanks. And then you just get it. So that's cool. I like that as well. That's nice. Again, quality of life, things like that. So good. Items you gain through the bonuses of your chosen faction will not be tradable, but can be gifted. Joining a faction will not prevent you from playing with any other player, and you will be able to gift items to other players regardless of their selected faction. That's something I also want to kind of clear up. COF, or Circle of Fortune, isn't solo self-found. Solo self-found is an actual mode, so do bear that in mind. I think you've technically got solo account found, so any character that's playing solo account found can still use the stash and share items, much like you can in solo self-found and PoE. But then there's also solo character found, so your stash, your inventory, and your character are all isolated, and that is like the solo self-found, solo character found, etc. Circle of Fortune is a faction in the game, so you could be playing with other people still and be in the Circle of Fortune. You just wouldn't trade items with each other unless you got one of the special resonance items. Then you can, and that would only be with people who you regularly play with. Overall, we have reduced the base item drop rate. Cool, especially in endgame, because the item factions will significantly boost your ability to not only find more items overall, but also to find higher quality items. That's fair enough. Within the first few ranks in COF, this is balanced out, even without prophecies. Nice. Below, you will find a high-level overview of each faction, but you can still find all the details in the post here. We can't wait to see the faction, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to see that because I'm already clued up on that, and if you're not, then you can go to the post. I'm here for the new stuff. So there's Gathering Storm. That's already been laid out in a previous blog, so I am going to skip this. Tempest Strike, Healing Hands. I do foresee Healing Hands becoming like a support meta for meta for group players. I suspect you're going to have a lot of people who would just conveniently have a Sentinel in their party for reasons, and I think this, not solely because of this, but I think this is going to be a big reason. Resonance, we were just discussing that. Cycles, we recommend players to create cycle characters. Cycles are Last Epoch seasons, which we will start with each major game update, such as 1.0 or 1.1, with the start of each cycle. All players will have the option to create new characters in an environment where nobody has prior progression, making it a fresh start for everyone. Only cycle characters are able to compete in the current cycle's leaderboards. Once the cycle ends, leaderboard placements are locked in and stored, making it impossible to submit new placements for that cycle. Those placements will be viewable from the leaderboards page, opened by pressing L by default. All characters and items will transfer over to Legacy, where also all pre-1.0 characters and items are. Legacy characters cannot submit new placements in the leaderboards or trade or party with cycle characters. So to clarify this as well, again, a lot of people, especially newer players, I think there's going to be a lot of Diablo 4 players who are going to have this question of like, how does Last Epoch work? It is a live service game. So ideally, the recommended, the preferred, the best way to play the game is by participating in the cycles. The idea is with each cycle, you'll get some fair weather content, much like you do in Path of Exile with its leagues and Diablo 4 with its seasons. And then the following league, that content will disappear and be replaced by something else. Now, EHG, I believe it was Mike, might be wrong, but EHG have said for the first at least 2 cycles, all the content that is in Cycle 1 and Cycle 2 will also be in the Legacy, Eternal, the Normal, Standard, whatever you want to call it, characters. So your old characters, the characters you have now, will be able to access the exact same content that the first 2 cycles do, potentially first 3, because in the first few cycles they want to cross the T's, dot the I's, nip things in the bud, get it all balanced and like perfect, basically get the feature complete, and then they'll start going, here's some extraordinarily new content. And we know that they're working on a lot of monolith stuff to make the monoliths a lot more exciting, and they're also working on pinnacle bosses, I believe. So that's stuff that the devs said that's what we're doing, like well in advance. So I think that's cool. To make a base build that fortune to find better variants as you play. I think the faction system is amazing, because one of the reasons that people don't like to play, or rather people play solo self-found or Iron Man and things like that, is because they don't like interacting with other players. They don't like feeling dependent on other players finding their loot and trading it in. I like trade. I like having economy. I like the idea of finding an item and being like, it's not for me, but it's still valuable, and I can now get rid of that in order to get the thing I do want. I love that. And in most games where there is a solo self-found feature or a single player feature, there's nothing to counter that benefit of being able to trade with people. So I think the Circle of Fortune is a wonderful balance, like, change to basically say, okay, you don't want to trade with people, you don't want to deal with that, that's fine, we understand. You want to hang out on your own, have a cup of tea, maybe a wank afterwards, good game. But you can still customize the game. Again, we're going to give you player agency to still help with target farming things, so you don't feel like you're losing out of an advantage by wanting to be on your own. And I think that's just so nice. I think that's genuinely nice. Potentially, it might be overpowered. Who knows? You might be able to find perfect LP4 items. I highly doubt it, but you know, through the Circle of Fortune, and then people on trading are like, oh my god, kind of thing. And obviously they're going to balance that. They've got the favor system to do that. But yeah, I think it's a genuinely wonderful thing. Full offline mode added the ability to launch Last Epoch in a fully offline mode. So what I think that means is it doesn't have to authenticate your account first. It just goes, yeah, sure, go kill shit, go ahead, knock yourself out. That's awesome. That is genuinely awesome. There's going to be so many people that are going to be happy about that. It's a shrinking crowd of people as the years go on. Infrastructure around the world is getting better and better and better. But imagine your internet, your ISP just screws up and you've got no internet for like 4 hours. And you're like, oh, but I really wanted to play my game. You can still play the game. It'll be on an offline character, a separate character. You may have to start from scratch if you've not already played those characters. But you can still do the thing you enjoy. I think that's super cool. This can be accessed through the Steam UI by following these instructions. Blah, 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 blah. You will be prompted to eat dick and feature differences. Blah, blah, blah. Bug report and support tickets are removed. Chat item linking is disabled, obviously, though chat window can still be viewed. Region selection dropdown shows as unavailable. Makes sense. Online character tab is hidden. Makes sense. Cannot return to the landing zone page after selecting play offline. Makes sense. A full restart of the application is required to change between full offline and online mode. That's fine. Wonderful feature. Good job, EHG. Scene variant system. So this is what they were talking about, like with weather and things like that, which I think is very, very cool. It looks very, very pretty, especially with the new lighting. Lighting makes such a difference, man. The scene variant system is another major system we are introducing for 1.0. It is basically a set of tools and shaders which allow us to improve the visual quality of our scenes and add more variety to the game. It allows us to create dramatically different looking scenes by using scene variant templates. With shader changes, we now can change the vegetation, wetness of our surfaces, and add puddles to the scene using just shader functions, not puddles. In other words, we can now have richer looking scenes while improving performance in the process. This system allows us to bring much more variety into the game. For example, monolith scenes can look very different each time you will enter it. Added a new system that changes the environment and appearance of monolith zones. The lighting system, okay. Oh, I'm actually quite intrigued what lighting system they use. I can't remember what engine they use. Do HG use their own engine, or is it? I feel like it's a Unity or something. We'll see when I load the game later. It will likely say on the splash screen, won't it? In addition to ambient occlusion improvements, we are also adding a modern screen space soft shadow system. That's a mouthful. In scenes that previously had no shadows, the player character is now the source of physical light. This increases the dramatic lighting in our scenes where objects around the player properly cast shadow while still keeping performance in check. Excuse me. Since this is a screen-based solution, it has a fixed performance cost no matter how many objects or monsters are on the screen. Nice. Overhauled shadows in many scenes to enhance their impact and depth. Light will follow the player as they progress through the scene and add directional and dynamic field to the shadows. The system has fixed performance costs, which means it won't scale with additional enemies or objects on screen. You can adjust these shadows using the shadow quality settings. Very low shadow quality completely disables this system. Improved lighting and post-processing across the game, so scenes will look less washed out, have higher contrast, and a more dramatic look overall. Increased quality of volumetric settings and high and ultra settings should have increased resolution for volumetric lights. New ambient occlusion tech, which will have an overall more refined and better appearance at higher settings. I zoom in a little bit, by the way. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Is that it? There we go. I think this is brilliant. I've always been an advocate for light radius in a game, not necessarily a stat on gear. I said it about Diablo 3, that one of the reasons a lot of people and likely didn't realize that they thought Diablo 3 felt cartoony was because everything glowed. You would go into a cave and the rocks would glow. They would have bloom around them. And it's like, mate, you're a fucking rock. Why are you glowing in the dark, like, all the time? Especially with it not having some kind of weird fungi or something. It was just like everything glowed. And then Diablo 2 Resurrected came out, and then, of course, that came with the light radius system. Everything looked a lot more gothic and dark, and there was this literal ring of darkness you couldn't see out, beyond, and things would come out of the darkness and run at you. And then they did it again with Diablo 4. They brought back light radius. And now in Last Epoch, they've got this light radius. It does add a lot. Just having like the outer edges of the screen bathed in darkness and having the light react to your position and where you can see. It's almost like a fog of war kind of effect. It adds so much to the game. So really happy they've done that. Genuinely, the lighting has made a huge difference to the graphics, in my opinion. 2.5D cinematics. Ooh, go on. Added a new intro cinematic to the game that introduces the player to the Divine Era in Chapter 1. This replaces the old classic specific intros. 8 other cinematics added throughout the campaign chapters. What? Bruh. If they're like super good, I'm going to feel really bad because I intend on skipping most of the campaign because I've experienced most of the campaign. I haven't played New Lagon yet since 9.2. We might see that with my first character. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how I'm feeling. Sometimes I like to go like up to Lagon and then skip, because then you get all your stuff and whatnot all automatically, all your passives and idols. I'm probably not going to do that, and I might just do the proper speed strat where you go to Act 9 and then fill in the blanks thereafter. We will have to see. But yeah, ooh, these could be pretty good. 2.5D. Updated all character classes with model improvements, better proportions, new rigs, and new animations. We've continued to improve the performance of our visuals by optimizing textures, draw calls, model cleanups, shaders, and lighting. Terrain shader improvements to make environments more lifelike and visually cleaner. System changes. You will find more detail in the sections for each endgame system, but we wanted to give you a quick overview of our changes. We have made enemy power come less from endgame modifiers and more from the inherent strength of high-level enemies and the base effect of corruption, primarily to achieve a more predictable experience in high corruption monoliths. Specific corruption values should feel like they mean something in terms of difficulty instead of a difficulty varying so wildly based on your current mods. To explain that, in the Monolith of Fate, when you go to pick like, oh, I'm farming helmets and here's a helmet echo, it would give you mods and it would be like, for the next 5 echoes, here's X% enhanced damage to enemies or extra chance for them to crit, stuff like that. And currently, pre 1.0, those numbers can get batshit crazy. And you end up just avoiding shit because it's like, oh, if I click on that echo for the next 5 echoes, I am going to get one shot by everything guaranteed. So now what they're doing is having it so those will always be somewhat flat. Like this is just an arbitrary example, but say like monsters get 25% enhanced damage and then it won't exceed that cap. But then the corruption will be like, we've added enhanced damage with corruption. So that way you can downscale it back because you can remove corruption. So you can get the balance of where you actually want the level of difficulty to be, which I think is a very good change. To achieve this, enemies have been buffed globally at high levels. Corruption scaling has been increased. Monolith mods have shorter duration and no longer scale with corruption, and high-level dungeon and arena mods have been reduced in power. Overall, we have increased enemy health and damage globally above level 60 by around 5% at level 80 and around 25% at level 100. Sure. Disabled bonus XP from arena for characters below level 50. Certain arena mods, especially those specific to Tier 3 and Tier 4, have been adjusted to lessen the impact of the global enemy buffs. However, these changes are smaller than the ones to dungeon mods, so Tier 3 and Tier 4 arena will now be noticeably harder than before. That's fair enough. Arena's supposed to be hard. Like, arena, you don't get any items. It is, well, you do technically get items, but you wouldn't use it to farm items. It is an EP thing. You've gone, I've made a build. I'm going to see how far this build can take me. And then I go on the leaderboard, and then people can see that I'm in the top 100 or top 10, whatever, depending on how much of a god gamer you are. We have also changed the scaling for enemies in Endless Arena past Wave 100 to be much faster. For example, Wave 140 is equivalent to the old Wave 200, and Wave 320 is equivalent to the old Wave 500. Consequently, achieving high tiers of Endless Arena is now much harder. Makes sense. Many campaign scenes have been tuned to look and perform better. New visual elements have been added to the End of Time. Encounters in Chapter 4, 5, and 6 have been overhauled. Nearly all of 4, 5, and 6 scenes contain semi-randomized or fully randomized enemy placement. Okay. Many enemies with old models have been removed. No more dual spiders or old chimeras. Okay. Old chimeras, they were the one with the snake came out the mouth, right? I fucking hated those. They were so annoying. Many enemies with new models have been added, such as zombie hounds, undead hydras, and bone mimics. Other enemies have been shifted around and rebalanced. The Wraith Dunes no longer has infinitely spawning wraiths. Makes sense. Various bugs with Imperial era enemies have been fixed. All Scorpion enemies except for the Gem Scorpion boss and Voidstone Scorpion now use the new Scorpion model. Cool. Larger Imperial enemies such as Immortal Eyes and Desecrated Fleshes are now always rare. Ah. Interesting. Cool. I have potential thoughts, but I have to think about it. Quest encounters in 4 and 5 that previously involved a rare enemy now always feature a unique mini-boss, e.g. the Imperial Welrin quest has an Inquisitor mini-boss, and the Sapphire Quarter quest encounters have Soul Warden and Sand Lich mini-bosses. Okay. Chapter 4 also has additional mini-bosses in various zones. Fair enough. That's probably because I think that's their way of saying, okay, we know you're going to skip the campaign, but you're going to bloody pay for it, because you have to basically get to Chapter 4 at least. Town waypoints now automatically unlock upon entering the zone. That's actually really nice. That's actually really, really nice. Because the amount of times that you think you've gone to unlock something and you've just ran straight past it, and then you're like, oh, shit. So we like that. We stand that change. Time Rift portals now say that what era it is taking you to in a transition notification. Cool. Dungeons. Enemies in Tier 1 dungeons deal 35% less damage, and they have 25% less health. Really? For people? Really? I mean, I didn't think they were particularly hard at T1, but okay. Remove the entrances from all dungeons after the player has entered. You can no longer turn around and go back the way you entered. Fair. Lightless Arbor changes. The Mountain Beneath grants 150% more experience. Stone Titan's Heart grants 400% more experience. Titan Spawns grant 46% more experience. Amber Elements grant 108% more experience. Rotting Hollows grant 75% less experience. Okay. Stuff about experience. I mean, sure. Who cares? Mods have been adjusted so that bosses at those tiers have a similar power to before. However, this means that earlier parts of the dungeon will be more difficult, especially the Soulfire Bastion. Fair enough. Monolith of Fate. Okay. Ooh, this is where the blessings have been changed. Okay, okay. Grand Echo of Solarum grants 55 to 75 from 45. Okay, so that's been narrowed. Nice. All of these appear to have been narrowed down. Nice. Grants 8 to 15 minion ore resist from 7 to 12, so buffed. Cool. Grand Virtue grants 16 to 25 from 13 to 20. Buff. Grants 45 to 70. Buff. Okay. Greed of Darkness changed to 6 to 10 ward and killed. 60 to 100 ward decay threshold from 8 to 14. Really? Ward is already OP. I wonder if Ward's getting nerfed in this patch. Like Ward, low life Ward builds are broken. Like straight up broken. 12 to 18 Ward on kill and decay threshold. Oh, okay. I was like, wait, but that's because greed and then the grand. Greed, grand. Bless him. Grace of Water now also adds decay threshold. Did that get changed? What did it get changed to or from? Or is that a new one? I don't know. Moon. Buffed. Health regen. More health regen. Buffed. Equaling other ailment blessings. Okay, that makes sense. Buffed. Slightly buffed. Ooh. That has been nerfed. Armor has been nerfed. Bulwark of the Tundra. Likewise for the grand version. Armor stuff appears to be getting nerfed across the board. Blessings, that is. So has Spell Leech, which, yeah, fair play. Leech is like substantially stronger than other forms of health regen, including health regen itself. Grand Hunger of the Void grants Spell Leech, Throwing Leech. Yeah, fair play. That's only a little teeny tiny nerf though, because you're probably going to be aiming for the 3.5 either way. Oh, sorry, no, ignore me. From 3.5 to 5. Oh, wait, no, that's a huge nerf. Okay. Ignore what I was saying. Corruption scaling. These changes are intended to allow for faster progression through the monolith for characters that are capable of it. Changed the modifier from corruption to scale up more quickly. It is now larger and scales up faster, especially at high corruption. At corruption 100, it is 60% more monster damage and health from 50. At 200 corruption, it is 170% from 100. At 300 corruption, it is 281 from 147, and at 500 corruption, it is 505 from 289. So basically, it is going to be quicker to make the game harder, but also benefit from that difficulty if you can surpass it. In terms of finding loot, reduced stability requirements of second and third quest echoes of non-empowered timelines. 400 instead of 650. Oh wow, okay, so they want you to get through basic bitch timelines real quickly. Increase the additional corruption granted by Gaze of Orbis by around 10%. Nice. Average legendary potential in Weaver's Will now also scale up slightly with corruption. For example, uniques have around 5% higher chance for +1 LP at 100 corruption, 10% chance at 300, and 40% at 600. Ooh. Ooh. That's a nice thing to hear. I was already saying that with the Merchants Guild, things like LP3 gear is going to be somewhat more accessible, because you're going to find people who's going to find gear that they have no interest in, but it has multiple LP on it, and then you'll be able to buy it from the Merchants Guild. That seems to be buffing it even further. So a lot of the less than 1% chances that you'd see are going to be a lot less scarier than they once were. Monolith mob density. Normalized mob density. It is now 4% lower than before in Reign of Dragons, 8% lower than it was before in the level 90 timelines, and 10% higher in all other timelines. Previously, Reign of Dragons was 50% higher than most other timelines, and the level 90 timelines were 20% higher. Okay, that's fair enough. Again, that's only in the regular ones, right? Regular monolith echoes contain 5% more enemies. This does not change the number of the enemy types in the echoes. Sure. Mod rewards. The increased item rarity and experience from modifiers has mostly retained their existing base values. Enemies are deadly if not damaged recently. Now grants 40% increased item rarity from 20%. Ooh, and 40% increased experience from 15%. Ha ha ha. So that's going to incentivize people to be like, ooh, I like to greed at the expense of potential pain. Let's go for it. Enemies enraged at half health now grants 40% increased item rarity from 18 and 40% increased experience from 5. Okay. That's literally to incentivize people from avoiding those. I never thought this one was a problem because most of your builds do AoE, so it's very rare to not hit something like recently. So I was never really scared of that one, so I'll probably be utilizing that one a lot. The enraged one can be scary though. Monolith mod scaling. Monolith mods values are now static and no longer scale up with corruption or distance from the center of the echo web. Additionally, their duration now scales up to a maximum of 3 echoes from 6. Ooh, that's nice. The baseline values of various monolith mods have been changed. Mods that scaled invisibly but no longer scale. Enemies in range at half health, the size of the buff scaled up at the same pace as things like increased damage mod. Enemies gain frenzy and haste when hit, the size of the buff scaled up at the same pace as things like increased damage mod. Okay. Speed and crit chance until approached. Enemies are deadly if not damaged recently. Blah blah blah. Enemies are healed if not damaged recently. Enemies have a chance to dodge. If the dodge amount scaled up to the same pace as things like increased damage, but was capped at twice this value. Okay. Rare enemies regenerate health. The amount of health regen scaled up to the same. Okay, so they've basically again just made the modifiers a wee bit easier. Sorry, bear with me. I'm getting very thirsty. Okay. New Monolith Echo modifier values. Fall resistance 25, armor shred 35, chill chance 20, crit avoidance and increased health 35 and 15. 20% higher than stated. This has been fixed. Wow, okay. Crit chance additive 15, okay. 12 to 200, sure. Glancing blow 50. Health 30. Physical damage 25. Mark for death chance 40. Enemy cooldown recovery. Slow chance, undead health and damage. Avoid enemy damage. Okay. Nothing too scary there, from what I can see. Disabled bonus XP from Monolith for characters below level 50. And I wonder if that's to, again, decentivize people from skipping the campaign. It's like, it might feel a little slower. Or if anything, not necessarily decentivize them, but remove the incentive to skip the campaign, if anything. Because that's pretty much what I used to do. I'd be like, oh, the monolith's unlocked. This is where I live now. Kind of thing, regardless of what level I was. Like, I think I did level 58 monoliths as low as like level 30 before. It was something crazy like that. 2 ruin themed 8 new monolith echoes have been added to the game. These include 2 ruin themed echoes, 3 divine themed echoes, and 3 imperial themed echoes. So new tile sets, basically. Many monolith scenes have been tuned to look and perform better. Completing a timeline that can unlock multiple other timelines now unlocks all of them, regardless of dialogue choices and quests. Oh, okay. I wonder if people were like, I was so confused and I wanted to go to the thingy one, but I followed the Wangari and ended up in the different one, or some bullshit like that. Gameplay experience. Full controller support. Cool. I'm not going to go through the controller support stuff because I don't use it, but I'm glad that it's there for those who do. Online, implemented wide-ranging improvements across matchmaking services, including improved matchmaking times, especially in towns. Parties always load into towns together. Matchmake into more populated towns. Reduced matchmaking failures and disconnects. Nice. This is all big. This is all big. Reduced occurrence of disconnects from portaling. Nice. I would like it to no longer get disconnects from portaling, but they're working on it. Matchmaking, excuse me, will now always use your preferred region setting after every server transition. Okay. The max number of online characters per player has been increased to 25 from 20. Nice. 25, Blizzard. 20 fucking 5. 10 player queues back on. Okay. Character creation. Added solo character found. Challenge mode to online play continues to exist in offline play. This functions the same as the previous offline solo challenge, where characters cannot party and their stash is isolated from all other characters on that account. We've temporarily disabled the option to abandon solo challenges due to a bug that we're working on fixing. We plan to address this with a hotfix where abandoning the challenge transitions the character to solo account found and deletes their current stash. Okay. Removed Masochist challenge mode and replaced with an item that replicates the functionality. The item can be found in the first area of the game. Interesting. Mechanics. Parry. Added parry as a new defense type and as a new affix type. Go on. Parry is a defensive mechanic that grants a chance to negate all damage taken from hits. However, unlike dodge, parrying does still count as being hit, and as a result of that ailments can still be applied to you when you parry a hit. Ha. Parry has no effect against damage over time effects and is capped at 75. It is not currently possible to reach this cap with available sources. I like the idea of them adding more stuff, but I feel like everyone's going to look at this and go, okay, I'm getting dodge then. Because dodge isn't capped at 75. I think it's 80 or 85. And you don't get the ailment. Like, it just sounds like a bad dodge. So I'm not sure how I feel about the parry. Maybe I'll have to see it in practice, or maybe someone's going to say something and be like, oh yeah, no, this is why parry good. And I'm going to like, okay, cool. But at the moment, sounds like it's going to be ignored by a lot of people. Stun avoidance rework changed how stun avoidance affects chance to be stunned. It now adds to the flat percentage reduction in chance to be stunned that's applied after the rest of the calculation, i.e. stun threshold, rather than to health. 100 stun avoidance now adds 1% to your stun threshold. By default, a hit must deal more than 5% of your health to stun you. If you have 100 stun avoidance, that becomes 6%, and if you have 1000 stun avoidance, it becomes 15%. The chance that hits above this threshold will stun you is reduced correspondingly. A hit that deals 20% of your health when you have 1000 stun avoidance has the same stun chance as a hit that deals 10% of your health when you have 0 stun avoidance. Okay. This means that stun avoidance is no longer additive with health and is now particularly effective against hits that had a small non-zero stun chance, and raises the percentage of your max health that a hit must deal before it can have a chance to stun you. Subsequent stun avoidance related changes. Players' inherent stun avoidance has been changed from a static 25 to 250 plus 5 per character level. Okay. This results in the threshold of damage required to stun a player with no stun avoidance from items going from 5% of health plus ward plus 25 to 7.5% minus, or what is that minus, or is that the range? I don't know. Of health plus ward. Sure. The stun avoidance suffix has higher values, especially at lower tiers, and can now only roll on rings from body armor and catalyst. The hybrid stun avoidance prefix has been replaced by a health and stun avoidance suffix. Okay, so they've moved it as well. It rolls amulets and belts from amulets, just from amulets, okay, and gives slightly more added stun avoidance than the old hybrid stun avoidance affix did, and gives 20% less health than a health suffix at higher tiers. It starts dropping from level 46 onward. Okay. Other mechanics. Improved experience for skills with special requirements such as channeled skills, skills with weapon requirements, or movement skills by adjusting elements like auto-targeting. The grace period after changing zones is now also interrupted by using an instant cast ability or using a potion. Sure. Bosses are no longer pushable. Hey! That was so comical, just pushing bosses that are like 3 times the size of you around the arena. When a player dies, their minions are now unsummoned. Okay. Added a cooldown. So that's so you don't kill the thing from the grave, I'm guessing. Added a cooldown to prevent players from opening portals rapidly. Fair enough. Portals can now only be interacted with by their creators. Okay. Wasn't that how you would... I might be wrong. I haven't played a lot of multiplayer. I did some with Hammer when the multiplayer patch came out. Wasn't that how you portal to people? I can't remember. I might be misremembering. Maybe defaults polluted my brain. Optimize skill tree VFX to reduce loading times when the game is launched. Nice. Polished follow speeds of NPCs to more realistically follow you. Thank fuck. Increased summoned bee speed from 7 to 12 and acceleration from 12 to 18. Faster bees! Added the Kickstarter graveyard zone connected to the Soul Warden's Road. Cool. Skills and passive changes. Acolyte. I'm going to skip over the Acolyte because I do eventually intend on playing the Acolyte, but probably not for a good month or so. So I'm going to forget that I've read half of this shit, so do forgive me. I'm mostly concerned about the Rogue at the moment. Maybe the Mage. Arcane Ascendant, Shocking Expanse, grants 40% shock. Slow breathing, grant 12% reduced mana drain. 15% increased cooldown recovery speed. Sure, makes sense. Black hole, disintegrate. Increases the hitbox for Elemental Nova version. I'm actually interested in this because I had a really sick teleport build and then I played it recently and it seemed to have gotten nerfed into the ground since I first made it, and I'm just seeing if this improves it. Slightly plush shaped. This has been fixed so they are spherical. A slight buff as the Novas will more reliably hit. Okay, that'll be interesting to see if I notice that. Adjusted the visual effects of the default and lightning Novas to more closely match their hitboxes. Oh, okay, so apparently they were wrong as well, because it was lightning Nova that I did. So that'll be interesting. Fireball, Frostclaw, Frostwall, of Dominion, Meteor. Circle of Fire causes you to gain 10 ward from casting Fireball with Craterborn. Increases mana cost by 15. Ooh. If you're wondering, the build was you teleport, beginning, the middle, and the end of the teleport did a Elemental Nova, the lightning version. And then I had the Meteor Belt, the whatever of the stars, and you have a chance on crit to summon meteors. And I also had the set staff to go with the helmet that's turned Meteor into a lightning spell, so I'm just scaling all the lightning. And there was also int stacking involved and stuff like that. So meteors cost less, which is nice because it means it spams more meteors on crit. More stun. Shattering Star grants 50% chance for shrapnel. Rapid Breakup grants 40% increased shrapnel speed. I think these are the ones on the right side, which I didn't use. Rune Bolt, Runic Invocation, Snap Freeze, Earthquake, Prime List. I am not that bothered about Prime List at the moment. I did enjoy my lightning build. I am kind of intrigued on what we could do with Tornado, but that's going to be for another day. Acid Flask, okay. This shit's important because this is to do with my starter build and like another 4 builds I have in my head that I want to make guides for. At least 4. The hit portion of the skill now has 100% added damage effectiveness from 60. Oh. Buff to Acid Flask enjoyers. Poison Pools. This also coincides with another item that I am looking at that was in the blog from yesterday, which we'll cover after the patch notes. Poison Pools from the Poison Pools node are now limited to a maximum of 4 active at once. Okay. What were they before? Acid Flask's Caustic Concoction grants 25% poison chance from 15 and has 4 points. Fair enough. Acid Flask has a new node called Alchemist's Gift that turns into a trap. Ballista deals 50% more damage. Ooh, has 20% increased attack speed. Ooh. See, loads of people are like, Ballista's one of the S tier builds? I wonder why. And bearing in mind, the people that are making the tier lists are CT players, the closed test players. So they know what it looks like. They knew this shit. And they're like, yeah, Ballista's going to be OP. And people are like, are you sure? Bitch, yeah, that's sure. Shared enhancement buffed to 25% damage sharing from 15. Contaminating shots buffed to 25% ailment sharing. Its turn speed now scales with increased to minion attack speed. Oh, making it feel better in combat. Okay, interesting. Added a new node, Agile Engineering, which grants 1% increased placement speed per dexterity. Oof, and 1% increased attack speed per 5 dexterity. Yeah, no wonder they're broken now. No wonder. Like all the max roll guys are like, yeah, Ballista's fucked. Like, or rather, Ballista fucks, if anything. It is attached to the root node, and the efficient construction and rapid fire nodes now require 1 point in it instead of being attached to the root node themselves. Okay. Flaming shots now requires 1 point in agile engineering, from 1 point in rapid fire. Rapid fire can have 4 points allocated from 5. Shield up requires 1 point in shared enhancements. Sturdy foundation, sure. Free, yeah. Just Ballista enjoyers, enjoy. Cinder Strike. The first blow attack is 20% slower. Ooh, that makes me feel sad. There was a build that I'm looking at potentially doing. Although that might be because of the thing that I was looking at. There's an item that was in the blog yesterday that I think is fucked. Like, so broken. And I suspect this literally might be because of that item. Cinder Strike's first attack now has 200% added effectiveness from 150. Never mind. It's yeah. Oh my god. This is going to be something to watch out for, boys and girls. Dancing Strikes Windmill Ballet now has 2 points and grants 50% chance to use shurikens from 30. Okay. Shadow Daggers. Shadow Daggers has 68 base damage from 90 and 340% added damage effectiveness from 450. Whoo! Big nerf, but I suspect Shadow Daggers is still going to be crazy strong. One of the reasons I think that is because Wraith is an adamant Shadow Daggers enjoyer, and he has been playing on the CT. I know he has access. I know that he is still a Shadow Daggers enjoyer and is going to be starting with Shadow Daggers, so he must be confident that it's still strong as fuck. So, if anything, Shadow Daggers were kind of broken. Like, they were just a huge source of damage, especially with Falconer and the nets and aerial assault. Plumed daggers node, where you in a space of a second, you got 12 stacks of Shadow Daggers, so that's 3 actual Shadow Daggers in a second. Guaranteed crits. Yeah, it was broken. So, not surprised by that, to be fair. Shift gave Shift a fixed 0.1 second use delay. Ooh, also edited the animation to make it smoother. Sad face. I kind of get why they've done it, but I like instant dash. Let me have my instant mobility skills. Although, I know aerial assault is overall slower than Shift. Is it still instant, technically? Who knows? Who knows? Suppose we'll find out in a couple of days. Smoke Bomb. Smoke Blades grants +4 melee and throwing damage from 10% including melee and throwing damage listed. Incoming? Included? I don't know. Words. Raising strike on the Sentinel. Wow, is that it? I thought we were going to see some shit about the Falconer, unless that ends up in a lower thing. I really thought we were going to see some nerfs to Falconer, to be honest. But all right. Sentinel, I'm going to skip over Sentinel. Forgive me. I do like the Sentinel. I've played a couple of builds with it, and I will be coming back to it. I'll be coming to every build, every class, and making numerous builds. But for now, it's not a priority. Likewise for Primeless. Wait, what is it? Passive changes. Okay. Chronomancy grants 5% ignite chance from 4. Okay. This is Spark grants 8% chance to proc Spark Nova from 6. Sure. I didn't vibe much with Spark Nova with the builds that I'd done so far. Water requires 15% ward on fire, cold, and lightning hits from 10. Okay. Evasion grants 4% less damage taken while moving from 5. That's fair enough. And Juggernaut. Item changes. Added 13 new uniques. Do they link them? They don't. Sadness. Okay, so we're getting 13 uniques. I'm assuming one of these is probably a spear. Talons of Valor, maybe? Like, maybe it's a pitchfork or something like that. We've seen some of these. I'm guessing there's going to be a spear, because there's like, oh, Falconer spear build is in all the passives, but then there's no, like, dedicated Falconer spear. Or 2 or 3. Maybe there'll be a couple. We'll have to see. Uniques and set item changes. Aaron's Will. Base time remains Revenant Plate. Base type remains Revenant Plate, causing it to gain 100 armor and 3 to 6% of max health gained as endurance threshold, but lose the 11 to 15% endurance. Oh, okay. Aberrant Call. The increased minion damage mod is now just affects minion melee damage. Now also grants 13 to 35% increased minion movement speed. There's an effective level for legendary potential from 38 from 10. Okay. Arrow Guard grants 15 to 30% glancing blow chance. That's always nice. I can't remember what Arrow Guard is. Gained when you receive a glancing blow from 30%. So they removed the 30 to 50% increased armor in favor of health. Okay. Grants 50 to 100 armor. Has an effective level of legendary potential of 60 from 40. Okay. So they've made some of the items not get LP until later in the game, which, sure, I get. Artor's Legacy, base type change from Horned Cowl to Ice Wolf Pelt. Sure, Battle Mage's Endeavor has an effective level of legendary potential from 20 from 30. Oh, so they've lowered a couple as well. Okay. Bleeding Heart has an effective level of legendary potential of 40 from 0. Is Bleeding Heart the one you get from the Gambler? The crit one? Were they concerned it was too OP? And now you have to be like, no. I mean, to be fair, by the time... Because if it is that one, it is kind of a leveling unique to begin with. So, letting it be strong... I'm trying to think, do any late game builds use it? Or utilize it? I could be thinking of the wrong item, so who knows. If it is the item that I'm thinking of, I don't know. I feel like it was fine to have it as 0 because it was basically a leveling unique anyway, so you could just make it a more powerful leveling unique and then of course use it for leveling. Box of Hydra. Reduce max increased area to 63% from 81. Okay. Reduce max cast rate to 36 from 54. Increase max ward decay threshold to 108 from 90. Has everything I've read been a ward buff so far? I feel like it has. I'm like, what? Ward is broken. What are you doing? Like, low life ward builds are the meta at the moment. Calamity has an effective level for legendary potential of 40 from 0. Okay. That was the fire circular, if I remember rightly. Cleaver Solution. Speaking of low life ward builds, has an effective level for potentially legendary potential of 50 from 27. That one I can see making a bit more sense, but it's kind of like late game for that build anyway. Death Rattle now grants 35 to 65% minion crit multi from 50 to 100. Okay. Now grants plus 1 to 3 levels of sacrifice from 1. Oh. Interesting. That's going to make the item grind even more nerve-wracking. You pick it up and you're like, is it a +1? Is it a +3? It's a pineapple, I cry. Elikos abandon even? I was like, is that abandon or Abaddon? My brain just breaks occasionally. Base type changed from Scalebone Coat. Poison res, damage increased over time to Wormhide Coat. Increased dodge rating, increased... Ooh. Ooh. Sorry, I was just thinking for my build. Just thinking for my build. I'm in two minds of what armor I want to use. Ideally, eventually, like an LP4 woven flesh would be the goal, but obviously that's a pipe dream, so in the meantime, maybe that. Has an effective level of legendary... Sure. Exsanguinous has an effective level of legendary potential of 35 from 40. Really? They lowered it? They lowered it? That's a low life build enabling item there. Herald of the Scurry. Base type changed from Ancestral Helm to Tusked Great Helm, resulting in no change in stats. We just named it something else. Hive Mind lost 7 armor and 1.6% poison res due to the reduction of stats. On its base type, Leather Mask grants 40 to 90 health. Okay. Commode's Cage. Base type changed from Nomad Garb to Beast Mail. I liked the Beast Mail. Again, well, I think this is one of the new ones. We'll see it in the blog post that I'll cover in a separate YouTube video / after this in the stream. A lot of people are like, who cares? But like, I'm a movement speed enjoyer, man. Let me have it. Legacy of the Quiet Forest. Legacy of the Quiet Forest is now a Nomad belt from Bronze belt and grants 90 to 245 armor from 30 to 145. The net result is that it gains 1 more potion slot and 10 minimum armor. Its maximum armor has not changed due to the loss of implicit armor. Mad Alchemist's Ladle. Grants 6% more spell damage per negative ailment, up from 8%. Up to 8. What? Are they saying it's now 6 to 8% rather than just 8? Because it says up to 8. 8 stacks? I've never used this item, so sure. Whatever. Nightbringer grants 54 to 84 bow void damage at low health from 54 to 64. Sure. Has an effective level for legendary potential 55 from 68. Nice. Omen of Thunder is now a Nomad belt from Bronze belt. This means that it has gained 1 potion slot and lost 50 to 100 armor it affects. Its effect now grants 24 to 34 spell damage to existing totems. Cool. Paranoia. Base type change from Dawn Helm 400 armor to Full Helm 95 armor. Now also grants 7 to 13% less damage taken while moving. Okay. Pillager's Gold has an effective level for legendary potential of 15. Renegade's Will 3 to 5 to Vengeance from 3. Has an effective level for legendary potential of 10 from 37. Okay. Sacrificial Embrace. Unique Gloves now gains 28 to 58% chance to gain a stack of Abyssal Rite on crit from 20 to 28. Damn. Now has a plus 14 void spell damage and plus 14% void penetration per stack from 10. Big old buff to those bad boys. Gloves are seeing a lot of like nice shit recently. Sanguine Horde grants 25% increased attack speed from 20, has an effective level for legendary potential of 20. I'm trying to remember what item that is. Is that another glove? Probably. If it's got increased attack speed on it. Shadow Beacon grants 1 to 2 void skills from 1. Now also grants -10 to -5 erasing strike mana costs. Shroud of Obscurity base type changed from Heretic Robes to Witch Robes. Fair play. Ward on dodge. An effective level for potential of 6 from 13. Sunforged Great Helm base type changed from Dawn Helm to Solarum Great Helm. Okay, loses armor, gains other shit. Cool. Sunforged Cuirass base type changed from Dawn Plate to Solarum Plate. Pretty much the same thing. Fire damage per forged weapon from 15 to 20. Sunwreath has an effective... Sorry, I'm just thinking of potential builds. Sunwreath has an effective level for legendary potential of 21 from 30. The Falcon renamed the Kestrel to avoid any confusion with the Falcon minion. We did the same sort of thing when we renamed the Monolith Unique Shield to the Slab. No longer grants 15% increased move speed if you have hit an enemy in the last 5 seconds. Now grants 5 to 7 increased move speed at all times. Now grants 30 to 45% chance to gain haste on hit. Now also grants 15 to 30 increased effect of haste on you. Now also grants +1 to dexterity skills. Huh. Good to know. Okay, good to know. Good to know. You'll find out why I'm looking at that later. Troaka's Teeth grants 60 to 90% frostbite chance on bow hit. Grants 90 freeze rate with puncture. Has an effective level of legendary potential 15 from 20. Okay, big buff. Twisted Heart of Ukeros. I hope that's how it's pronounced. Both current health to ward conversion mods are now 5 to 8 from 10 to 13. Nerf, oh no. Vilatria's Storm Crown. Ah, this is the crown that I was literally just talking about. That goes with the staff that makes your things, your meteor turn to lightning, and it is rare as fuck and a bitch to find. Base type change from Gilded Crown, 36 armor, increased elemental damage, to Weathered Crown, 14 armor, increased spell damage. Slightly nerfed. Boo. Grants 4 to 8 intelligence, slightly buffed. Huzzah. That actually synergizes directly with one of the set modifiers, which is +1% damage per int or something like that. So, yeah. Buffed there. Grants Lightning Pen. Also buffed there. Okay, so slight nerf here, but probably balanced out there. Zuriel's Hunt. Triggered effects grant 62 to 92% lightning penetration from 42 to 62. Has an effective level for legendary potential of 35. Nice. All classes added new faction-themed items that players can buy from faction gamblers for favor. Faction-themed items? Cosmetics? Like tabards or something? I don't know. Added 4 new endgame caches containing rare and exalted versions of all the base types of each faction. So I assume endgame caches, as in caches that can be found in echoes, and it's like, oh, you're doing a merchant, so here's a merchant one that does sick merchant shit. I don't know, maybe I'm misreading that or misinterpreting that. Renamed the non-class specific Forest Garb base type to Forest Cuirass to avoid confusion with the Primus specific Forest Garb base type. Fair enough. Item level requirement. There's one thing about base types that I don't think they fixed, but like say you've got a silver ring. A silver ring and a silver amulet have completely irrelevant implicits to each other. Like I think silver rings are movement speed, and then on amulet it's not movement speed, it's something entirely different that's not even to do with speed, if I remember rightly. That could be an out-of-date example, but there's loads of stuff like that, and I wish there was more consistency with that naming convention. Being an IT enthusiast and a tech enthusiast has meant that naming conventions are a pet peeve of mine. Like you've got your Xbox X, your Xbox Series X, and then like so on and so forth, and your graphics cards and USB A, C, D, banana hammock 3.2, HDMI 2.1, like all that shit. It blows my mind. Just have consistency. Item level requirement from affixes is now capped at 90. Oh, okay, yep. This was only possible to exceed with many high-tier affixes and a high-tier sealed affix. It was theoretically possible for an item to require level 101 by sealing a tier 7 experimental affix on an item with 3 other T7 affixes, and then crafting on a T5. Wait, what? So you could seal a T7 if you had the luckiest luck in the world. But how would you get 3 other T7s? Like, I get one of them could be a T7. I suppose you can technically get 2 other. But again, that would be insanely rare. If someone actually managed to achieve that, fucking fair play to them. Like, that item should be in the Hall of Fame, because the chances of being able to make that is crazy. Uniques and base item types can still have a level requirement above 90. Okay, fair enough. Belts. Leather belt requires level 9 from 14. Plated belts grants 35 to 65 armor from 50 to 100. Okay. Noble sash grants 16 to 32 armor from 5 to 20. Slight buff, cool. And requires level 14 from 32. Okay. Bronze belt has been replaced by the chain belt, which grants 40 to 75 war decay threshold and 4 potion slots and requires level 31. Ranger's belt has been renamed to Nomad belt and requires level 45 from 60. Added Spider Silk Sash, Diablo 2 throwback, which grants 33 to Arachnid's Mesh, if anyone's wondering. 35 to 47% chance and cold res, and 33 to 47% poison and cold resistance, and 4 potion slots. It requires level 58. That's kind of strong, honestly. Like 2 free resistances, like big resistances. Added Praetorian belt, which grants lots of armor and 4 potion slots. It requires level 66. Added Osprian belt, which grants 6 potion slots and requires a level 73. Added Divine girdle, which grants 4 to 8% increased movement speed and 4 potion slots. Requires level 80 rather. Okay. I hope there's going to be more room for potion stuff. Like it's something that I'm going to look into because it's a bit memey. Like you all know I like to make meme builds and see something that no one wants to touch, and then I go, I will make it work. And I find a way. And I think like potion based builds is one of those things that I'm going to try and solve, you know. Boots updated the icons for worn boots, leather boots, iron greaves, outcast boots, arcane boots, and shrine boots. Hide boots grant 5 to 7% increased movement speed from 4 to 7. Arcane boots grant 120 to 230 ward decay threshold from 10% to 15% ward retention. Okay. Added new boot space types. Vanguard boots, which grant armor, movement speed, and increased effective haste on you. Okay. And requires levels 76. Added a new boot space type, Citadel boots, which grants 185 armor, movement speed, and reduced bonus damage from crits, and requires level 85. Okay. Gloves updated the icons for Outcast gloves and Solarum braces. Male braces grant 32 armor from 30. Solarum braces grant 45 armor from 30. Noble gloves grant 28 armor from 32, and 7 to 14% increased mana regen from 3 to 10%. Cast speed. The thing with mana regen is it kind of sucks. Like for most builds, it kind of sucks. And Last Epoch, in general, it's you have to be a lot more concerned about your mana in comparison to other games in the genre, especially compared to PoE, for example, where mana doesn't mean anything. To be honest, it's just mana is just how many auras can I have, and that's about it. Whereas it's a lot more difficult to fix mana management in LE, which is both good and bad depending on what angle you're coming at. Like, it's better for creativity, but bad if you just want a really smooth blaster experience. But if you're playing Last Epoch, it's probably not the experience you're after in the first place. Who knows? Added a new glove base type, Arcane Braces, which grants 36 armor, mana, and increased mana regen. Cool. I wonder if they're adding all the mana regen implicits because they're aware that people are like, there's not enough sources, so at least if we have fuckloads of sources, that could make things smoother. I don't know. I'm not in their brains. Added new gloves base type, Ascetic Gloves, which grants 50 armor, or 58 armor, and 6 to 12% increased cooldown recovery speed, and requires level 79. Okay. That is actually something that I would be potentially considering for the Bloody Bird build. Added new gloves base type, Eternal Gauntlets, which grants 211 armor and 11 to 24% of armor mitigation, applies to damage over time, and requires level 86. Huh. Huh. You got a max roll on that. That could be quite nice. Always happy to have just extra defense bullshit, especially if one item gives you like a quarter of the mitigation. So yeah, okay. Ivory Ring grants 46 to 130 ward decay threshold from 13 to 26 ward retention. Weapons, Dawnblade now has 54%, 54 melee damage, okay. Nagasa Scimitar now has 35 to 65 increased damage over time from, ooh. I'm probably still going to use the dagger. I might move from the dagger in my build, because I've only really got the dagger for shadow daggers. After testing, it could be that the damage from shadow daggers isn't necessary, and I'd be better off with a damage over time boost. And if so, then I will go back to that sword. We will see. Unless down the line it's going to tell us something about Obsidian Dagger is now broken, but we'll see. Crystal Sword now has 8 to 40% increased attack speed from 10 to 16. I can kind of see why they nerfed that. They were super strong. Now has 30 to 53 critical strike multiplier from 38 to 60. Fair. Poison resistance. Fair. Chitin dagger. Poison chance from 20 to 60. Ooh, they've buffed it. They've buffed it. No, sorry. I was like, would I use that in the build that I'm literally going to be streaming after we've gone through all the blogs and that? And the answer is no. No, I wouldn't. Chris now has 35 to 65% increased critical strike multiplier from 40 to 80. Fair. Jade Cleaver now has 110 melee damage from 105. Dragonblade Axe now has 10 to 14 minion melee damage from 7 to 14. Okay. Serpent Bow now has poison chance. That has nearly doubled. What we're talking about, it's not really doubled. Close, 50% higher. Ornate Wand now has 22 to 61% poison chance from 15 to 51. Okay. Interesting. Is a poisoned wand really strong that they felt they need to nerf it? I don't know. I don't play Arclight. Maybe I'm wrong. Skeletal Scepter now has 35 to 75% increased minion damage from 25 to 65. Bow Affix Changes now has 75% affix effect modifier from 60. This is a buff to bows. Now has a 75% affix effect modifier. I think I'm having a brain fart because I don't know what the fuck that means. I'm sure I'll work it out later. The crit chance and bow attack speed now has a 75% affix effect modifier from 6. What does that mean? I'm confused. Help, chat. I need an adult. Acolyte body armor. I don't know. Acolyte helm, sure. Mage body armor. New. Sure. Mage helmets. Primalist body armor. Primalist. Rogue body armor. Leather Hauberk grants 33 armor from 52 and requires level 1 from 17. Okay. Banded Garb grants 40 armor from 13, requires level 6 from 4. Added a new rogue body armor, Growl Hide coat, which grants 52 armor and 12 to 20% increased mana regen and requires level 11. Outcast coat grants 64 from 42 and 12 to 32 necrotic resistance from 12 to 20 increased mana regen, requires level 23 from 26. Brigandine armor grants 105 armor from 204, damn, and 10% to 35% physical resistance from 32 to 44 and requires level 27. Oh, okay, that would explain why they nerfed it. I was like, bro, they have dumpster fired that bad boy. Replaced boiled leather armor endurance with umbral coat, which grants 188 armor and 39 to 90% increased damage with skills used by shadows and requires level 39. Wow, they're adding that straight into an implicit? Bruh. That's crazy. Wait, is boiled leather what I'm using? How dare you? You bastardos! That's not Spanish. I don't think it is anyway. If Spaniards, Hispanic folk as well, please don't come after me. Exile coat requires level 44 from 58. Oh, I wonder what I'm going to... I did say there was the damage over time one that I might use, I suppose. I liked having the endurance though. Scalebone coat grants armor and grants poison res and cold res. They move the damage over time, and I think that goes on another armor. Added a new rogue armor, Elite Regalia, which grants 190 armor, endurance, increased mana regen. Oh, ooh, actually, that's probably the new play. Elite Regalia, 190 armor, level 61, that's fine. 7 to 15 endurance, that's also huge actually, because the boiled leather is what, 7 to 8? 5 to 8. What? Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. You are my new best friend. Elite Regalia. Added a new body rogue armor, falconry armor. Go on, which grants 202 armor, 42. In the implicit? And throwing damage? Bruh. I don't need endurance no more. Hello. That's huge because we're a deck stacker. With this armor, I think with best in slot, you can breach 200 decks on the bleed bird, the bloody bird build. The throwing damage isn't a huge thing for the build, although it's overall this armor sounds stupid strong, especially for Falconer. Like this is the Falconer armor. Every Falconer is probably going to use this because Dex does so much on the Falconer Mastery, regardless of how you play it. Added a new rogue body armor, Wormhide coat, which grants armor, increased dodge rating, and increased damage over time. So that was the damage over time one. Honestly, I don't think I will need this because the damage over time that I will be doing is going to be so broken already. And I feel like the 4 to 8 decks I would benefit from in so many ways. Like what? That's 50% damage additive. Most of the skills give you 4% damage per 1 dex. So, you know, you're nearly getting 40% right off the bat, like 42 if you get an 8 roll. And then you've got so many things that scale with decks, like you get extra armor on decks with one of the nodes that we have and things like that. So yeah, this is looking super strong. Added a nude rogue, oh my god, a new rogue body armor, Dragonhide coat, which grants 180 armor, 25 to 38% crit avoidance, and 2 to 3% chance to crit. Okay. Gorgon Slayer grants 255 armor from 180, 10 to 50% cleansing blow chance from 25 to 38 crit avoidance. Okay. And 35 to 45% lightning resistance. I could be a little bit tempted by this one. I'm still probably going to lean into that one. But I definitely could be tempted by the glancing blow stuff. I don't think the rogue needs more sources for glancing blow because it's so easy to cap it out even without like converting all of your block chance and stuff. Like you can get 31% before Dusk Shroud. And then you can get like what? 4 Dusk Shroud at a time? Is that the cap? I can't remember. So yeah, you can get quite a bit. before actually needing it on items, but okay. Replaced Kelthan Mask, armor and elemental resistance with Horned Helm, which grants 62% armor, 62 armor, 6 to 18% physical resistance, and 6 to 18% increased physical damage, and requires level 28. Okay, that'd be nice for leveling. Added a new Rogue Helmet Umbral HUD, which grants 81 armor and stun avoidance. Exile Hat grants armor, that's gone down, that has a lower requirement. Scalebane Grimace grants 95 armor, up from 81, and 15 to 35% poison and fire res, but it was removed the health leech, okay. Replaced Umbral Visage, armor and crit multi, with Pinnacle Helm, which grants armor, health leech, and requires level 60. Added a new Rogue Helmet, Falconry Helmet, which grants armor, more dex, and okay, and melee and throwing damage for your Falcon requires level 68. Again, might potentially swap to that. The current helmet is the CDR helmet, though. I suppose it depends on how effective the CDR is going to be on the falconry skill passives. Not just falconry, but dive bomb, aerial assault, etc. If the synergy ends up being really, really strong, then we could probably switch to this. Added a new rogue helmet, Blood Visage, which grants 115 armor, 50 to 95% increased damage over time, 10 to 25% increased bleed duration, and hello! Okay. Mostly because of this. More bleed duration means more bleed damage. It doesn't stretch out the ticks, it adds more ticks. And in the case of the Bleed Falconer build, it's all about consuming the ticks. So the longer the dots, the more dots you can consume with the dive bomb, which means the dive bomb does more damage. Like, this is nice, but this is actually the bit that has more appeal. That 3 to 6 dex though, again, most, if not all of the Falconer skills. In fact, let's fucking check. Let's check, bruh. Umber Blades. Where is it? 4% increased damage per point in dex. 4% per point in dex. 4%. Where's puncture? 4%. Where's nets? 4%. So 4% increased damage on all of our abilities per dex. And it scales with other shit as well, based on how those things are leveled. I'm probably still going to go with this one. More dex is just win. But the Bloody Visage, whatever it's called, Blood Visage, I mean, it's a contender. It wants to be a contender. Added a new rogue helmet, Dragon Visage, which grants armor, fire resistance, and critical strike multiplier. That would be good for, like, shadow daggers. Very good for shadow daggers, in fact. Gorgon Scale Coif grants armor, increased stun chance, and is lower level requirement. Okay. Sentinel, sure. Hi, Sentinel. Affixes, new weapon affixes, hybrid damage type penetration, and minion damage type penetration for physical, fire, cold lightning, void, necrotic, and poison damage. Brackets all. Put that at the beginning, bitch. Plus expert parry chance, not one, scepters and bows. I still don't know how I feel about parry. Yeah. Hybrid mana and mana regen, not maces or bows. Minion damage suffixes have been changed to grant added damage. This we're going to read about later, so I'm going to skip it. New Acolyte affixes, level of Chthonic Fissure, Chaos Bolts, Ghost Flame, Profane Veil. Chance for 3 additional projectiles when you directly cast Chaos Bolts. Added spell damage for curses. Increased spirit frequency for Chthonic Fissure. Added spell damage for curses. Ward per second while channeling Ghost Flame. Mana efficiency with Ghost Flame. Increased duration with Profane Veil. Mana efficiency with Soul Feast and chance to wither on hit with Soul Feast. Ward per second during Profane Veil. Increased cast speed whilst cursed. Increased damage over time while you have an ailment overload. New Prime List, sure. New Rogue, level of Falconry, level of Dive Bomb, level of Explosive Trap, level of Aerial Assault, level of Net. Honestly, probably don't, for the build, for the Bloody Bird build, probably don't need any of those. I think we have enough Pretty much when it comes to, like, most of the gear is about building some physical damage, and everything else is pretty much defense on gear. So we might not really need that. Or it also depends on where they appear as well, of course. Increased damage in area with dive bomb. Glad to see it, but not for the bleed build. Added throwing damage with caltrops. Chance to apply critical vulnerability on hit with caltrops. Additional max traps with explosive trap. Increased throwing attempt. That's exciting because something we'll talk about later. Chance to deal double damage with falcon strikes. I think I've seen that. Like, I think 5% was one of the examples that we can see, which is pretty good, actually. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. Percentage of your bleed chance and poison chance granted to your falcon. Is that on items? That could be nice. That's already in the passive tree in at least 2 nodes, and we use one of them at least. I think there's one on falconry, which we don't use. And then there's another one that is in aerial assault, maybe? Or whatever, something to do with caltrops, and it applies it as well. Having that on items would be nice, though, because your falcon's bleed chance is separate to your own. So most of your bleed chance is going to be on you and your net attacks. But if we can just give some of that to the falcon as well. Sexy. In fact, actually, very sexy, because your chance to bleed is like the most important stat in any bleed build. Bleed chance is better than physical damage every time. Critical strike multiplier and minion critical strike multiplier. Increased area of throwing skills. Okay. That could be good for nets, as well as like the obvious ones like potions, but I do wonder if nets have any overlap. Hey, Zors. Thanks very much, mate. Increased area with caltrops and chance to shred armor on hit with caltrops. Okay. New sentinel affixes, level of healing hands. And moving on. Enemy changes. New or replaced enemies. Chapter 3. Replaced all void cultists except for a few mini-bosses. Replaced void fused bears with consumed grolls. Updated weathered statue model and abilities. Replaced ruined scuttlers with cockroaches. Replaced bloated husks and decayed husks with sprouting husks. Chapter 4, Imperial Hoplites have been rebalanced and moved to Imperial Thetima. Removed Flame Revenants, removed Storm Revenants, they still spawn in endgame. Added Zombie Hounds, Mortal Hunters, Bone Sculptors, War Tombs, removed Bone Cairns, they still spawn in endgame and will be re-added elsewhere in the campaign in the future. Fair enough. Added Inquisitor Captain Nerva, Praetor Tyrannus, Headhunter Lavian, or Lavian, Cyrenus the Accuser, and the Storm Cage. Okay. Even Chimeras. Yeah, they were annoying. Feline Chimeras, Valian Chimeras, Cultists, Wraithbinders, added Imperial Mariners, Imperial Navigators, Swamp Fiends, and Lightning Wraiths. Replaced Necromancer's Crows with Drowned Ravens. Drowned bird, eh? New NPCs, new monsters, for the most part. That's what this is talking about. New mobs. Updated giant scorpions, added crimson scorpions, added sand scorpions, removed blood jeweled, more jeweled, and sephirals. Are they like the big lightning resistance ones? Maybe. Added undead hydras, updated drowned husks, updated dune wraiths, they no longer spawn endlessly, added blood gorgons, mummified nagasa, titan leeches, leech slayers, Zarek's hands. I'm just imagining like his literal hands just going hello. Desiccated corpses, soul blinders, transfusion caskets, immortal firebrand, the bone furnace, Venator Alos, the Stygian warden, and Praetor. So we're getting loads of mini bosses and loads of just straight up new shit, so that'll be nice. I say that, I'm going to be skipping half of these chapters, so I'm not even going to see them. At least not my first playthrough. Added Imperial Deadeyes, Sewer Dwellers, removed Blood Chimeras, added Bone Scavengers, Bone Mimics, updated Rustland Stalkers, updated Giant Rats, added Rotting Hounds. Ranged enemy behavior changes. Several ranged enemies now move more between attacking to make combat feel more dynamic. This also makes these enemies less oppressive and robotic when fighting them. Enemies include Skalnir Mercenary, Imperial Scouts, Imperial Sentries, Imperial Arbalists, Wengari Raiders, Solar Auxiliaries. Yep. Osprix Light Mages, Ascendant Ember Mages, and Sapphire Nagasa. Okay. I wonder what that means. That I think I like the sound of, like especially against shitters like Light Mages, where they're just like, boom, dead bitch. Will I be playing on stream? I will be, yes. Other changes. All enemies have 2% more health. All enemies deal 1% more damage. The game has been nerfed. Cry, everyone. Everyone has now been made harder. Increased enemy health and damage globally above level 60 by around 5% at level 80 and around 25 at level 100. Okay. So the game overall has just been made harder. That's fine. Visual, sound, and UI. Visual updates. So a bunch of stuff got updated. We're already somewhat familiar about that. We're also going to be seeing some of these anyway. Or we saw some in the trailer even. Other visual updates. When the Primalist transforms back into a human after being a Werebear, Spriggan, or Swarmblade, there is now a puff of dust to make the transition a little nicer. Added a screen shake to most rogue abilities and fixed a bug with screen shaker not working for on-hit effects. This should make many skills feel better. That's cool. Updated character select screen, updated background lighting, added support to spin and zoom in on in and out on characters. That's nice. Updates. I'm assuming that's supposed to be updated. All classes in character select with the new rig and proportions. Nice. The visual orbiting of orbit spiral skills, shuriken, devouring orb, hammer throw, static orb. Cool. Stash visual update including a new model, animations, and VFX. Updated Void Yiki? I have no idea what that is, or at least do not recall. Several ailment VFX are updated. New models for Primalist minion skills. Sure. Updated visual effects for large number of skills. Fire explosion visual effects is used on explosion nodes. Sure. Explosion node now visually converts to blood if you take the blood conversion node. Nice. Hail of arrows. Dark quiver, dive bomb, area speed, shadow falcons, feather range, VFX. Cool. Summon skeleton, disintegrate, fireball, rive, raising, tempest strike, detonating arrow. Everything's been made to look prettier and or smoother, essentially. Cosmetics. Added a disclaimer that cosmetics cannot be equipped to offline characters. Makes sense. I didn't really think about it before, so it is worth mentioning. Performance and visual improvements to previous MTX items. Fair enough. Ugh, I need a drink. The game's been early access for about four years. I think in total development time it's been about 7 years. Around about. Where were we? Added several new pets. Guppy, the baby chronoworm, Face Sphinx, Twilight Fox, Frosthorn Owl, Seer's Orbs, Dire Guanas, and bees. You can buy bees! Added 5 new armor sets. Argentum Myrmidon, Crescent Sage, Crystal Beef Plate, Fallen Ronin, and Temporal Garden. Added 5 new helmets, Divine Shroud, Necrotic Shroud, Molten Plume, Gaze, Crystal Crown, and Dreadforged Helm. Backslots, more cosmetics. Added 3 new portals. Champions Pass, Celestial Way, and Fireflies Refuge. Added 4 new weapons. Whimsical Aegis, Time Guardian Catalyst, and Divine Fist Mace Bundle. Okay. Added some Kickstarter Alpha and Beta Supporter Pack rewards. Kickstarter Back of Portraits, Ancient, and Autumn's Blessing. Assume that means I get some free ship because I'm a beta supporter. Or more free ship. At the moment we get the basic bitch pet, which is like the little pangolin looking thing. I forget what they're called. UI updates. Nearly all of the user interface in the game has been updated with better visuals, improved legibility, more information where helpful, or improved information for clarity. Not all minor changes are listed. We could see in the video that it looks a lot better. Added an experience panel that gives detailed information about your character's current level that can be accessed via hovering over the XP bar on the HUD or the level display on the character information screen. Huh. Detailed information. What more detail do you need? This is your level. This is the next level. This is how much XP you need for that level. Was that not clear enough for folks? Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Added a level display below the experience bar on the HUD. Sure. Bottom of screen HUD icons showing you have New passive points, skill points, unlocked special license slots have effects for better visibility. Fair enough. Reperform health material has been slightly adjusted. Arena Wave HUD visual update. In-game chat help, improved layout information. Fair enough. Localization, continued improvements to translations for all supported languages. Nice. Added full translation support across all in-game text. Players may encounter UI display issues as we work to accommodate text that varies widely by language. That's fair enough. Please use our in-game support tool to help us gather feedback. These reports should be tagged as feedback for localization. Fair enough. Cinematic subtitles, nice. Boss voice over text is now shown in chat box. Nice. Menus, added a loading message to region display upon login. Steam required error panel has been updated with more accurate and helpful information. Sure. Added credits which can be found on the landing page. Escape menu is now shown on top of many panels that was beneath, allowing access to it in more states. Revised the wording to the support ticket form and fixed some typos. Sure. Disabled gameplay zoom while the support ticket form is open. Removed the support feedback options from the reported bug form now that there is a separate support form. Fair enough. Map and quest log. Is this an American company? Technically, like, it's a international company, I think is the best way to phrase it. It was just a bunch of dudes who got together and was like, do you want to make a game? And they said, yeah. And they're from all over the globe, basically. Map has been redesigned to be full screen and only show the currently select quests. Map has been redesigned to be full screen and only show the currently selected quest on click for better map visibility. Graphics been updated to better show towns, dungeons, and skips. Does this mean they've gotten rid of the overlay map? Or is this just... I assume this is just like the layout map of where you're going to. You better keep the overlay map. Please don't do what Diablo 4 did. Quest tracker has been updated so that you can pin and unpin tracked quests. Huge. Main quests will always be tracked. There is now an icon to the left of each quest denoting the campaign chapter where the quest is located. Also huge. This is actually really nice. Quest markers have been redesigned to feature 3D icons above NPC heads and now better reflect the following states for main and side quests. Quest available, quest accepted, quest ready to turn in. Nice little quality of life. Quest tracker and minimap on the right side of the HUD have been visually updated. Cool. Reworked quest UI in campaign, dungeons, arena, and monolith. Tutorial tooltips have been added to many areas to better explain corruption, stability, the timeline web, gaze of Oribus, and more. Center timeline node has been made visually more prominent to aid people finding it more easily when having a timeline with many echoes unveiled. Panels, nearly every model panel in the, or modal I suppose, panel and in the game has been updated with new styling and the custom Last Epoch font. They actually looked super nice in that reveal trailer. I actually really like how the UI looks now. Many panels have been updated with new effects to highlight actions or potential actions better, like unspent points in the passives panel, investing points in the skills panel, and the availability to transfer items in the inventory panel. Stash panel has been updated with smooth scroll for many tabs and visual improvements. Okay, that sounds nice. Character sheet layout has been updated, and even more detailed character sheet is still planned for the future update. Nice-oo. We like that. Game guide articles now have buttons to link those articles directly into chat so you can more easily help your fellow travelers. Oh, that's nice. That is actually really, really nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Blessings panel design has been updated to reflect their tie to the Epoch artifact. Choose a blessing panel from stabilizing a timeline has been redesigned and tells you how to unlock the 4th and 5th blessings options. Nice. Shader removal for inventory items for performance improvement. Cool, I guess. I mean, I'd rather the performance say sure, although I don't know what visual impact that will have. Social panel and experience. The social experience has been improved. Improved response time for party changes and friend updates. Character portraits load faster rather. Party panel no longer shows you on an empty party when you invite someone. Added do not disturb status to auto reject all party invites. Nice. Removed unused fields from the social panel. Added new chat messages for social actions. Add friend, block, invite. You will no longer see party invites from blocked players. Nice. Refer a friend. You can now send your invite code to a friend and they can claim you as the person who referred you to purchase Last Epoch. You may only claim one person as the person who referred you. Each time a person enters your referral code, you will receive one of 3 bee-themed cosmetic pet rewards up to a maximum of 3. Referral codes can be sent from the social panel. Oh, I did not know that was a thing. That's, again, nice. All the bees. Many bees for me. Sprite updates. All class badges have been updated across the game. All keyboard and mouse icons. All quest-related sprites. Information icons and buttons. Refresh icons. Shade of Orbis. Echo Node. Sanctuary of Etera. Echo Node. Buff and debuff icon holders updated for better visual weight and clarity. New specialization slot unlocked. New, basic attack icon. Move to icon. And new passive point available icon. Okay. New fancier art. Tooltips. Item tooltips design has been updated and visually redesigned to show larger item art and contain better prompt information and options, especially on gamepad. Nice. Added estimated in DPS tooltips to signify the calculations displayed don't account for many interactions and bonuses that may exist in your character's build or situation. That's made me laugh because it's a bit of a meme that the tooltip is useless because it doesn't do these things. So I think it's nice that they added, like, they're basically recognizing it. It's like it's a very, 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 very loose indicator of how much damage you're doing. Player and minion card have slightly visual updates. I also hope it means that they're going to improve the DPS tooltip, so there's less reliance on third-party tools. That would be nice. Player and maybe not now, but later that is. Player and minion card have slightly visual or have slight visual updates. Tutorials. They've been removed, moved, or made better. Cool. Other. Gamepad main menu wheel updated to include access to more panels and options. Most confirm buttons can now be used by pressing enter. Nice. In towns, you will now see faction affiliation displayed above characters. Ah, that makes sense. You may trade with other characters in town if aligned with the Merchant's Guild faction, obviously. Disabled timer on death screen to avoid it appearing when not needed. Loot filter added to bottom flyout menu. And gamepad wheel menu. Nice, because you had to fuck around and like go into settings and then be like game settings, manage filters. So yeah, glad that they've added that. That's such a small but nice thing. Updated damage number visuals based on gameplay elements. They mentioned that in the video that the number will kind of move in the direction that you're hitting to like, which is actually, it's such a simple thing to make the combat look better. Like to help with the immersion, because obviously having numbers everywhere is kind of immersion breaking for some people. So to have the numbers move as if it's part of the animation, that I think that's a nice little tweak they've made there. Added a short loading screen and transition effect when entering monolith echoes. Fair enough. Sound. Increased volume on Immortal Overseer Death sound. Increased volume on Soul Cage beams. Dreadnought's deck global ambience. Profane Flesh now has a vocal sound effect for its main rock throwing ability. That'll be nice. Flame Griffin should now play all sounds in online play, and the sounds for when they fly, dash, and sounds for the Novas have been replaced. Okay. For skeleton enemies, implemented louder vocals for Storm Thrower Zale. With various skill sounds on Sapphire Nagasa weren't playing in online play. Ice Elemental Boss has new sounds for its projectile skills, summoning mirrored elementals, and death sounds in more. The reason these are important, by the way, is because you're supposed to use the sounds to warn you when shit's going to happen. So them making the sounds easier to hear and distinguishable from each other is a good thing. Increased frequency of player on kill and attack hurt lines. Reduced volume on poison explosion sounds that play when poison hounds die. Reduced volume of hanging cages sound effects that can be heard in the Risen Lake. Increase the fail chance on Void Scholar attack vocals. Weathered statues have new sound effects. Rat enemies have new sound effects. Increased volume on Immortal Overseer Death sound. Increased volume on Soul Cage Beam. Added new sound effects to the new Ulatry? Sure. Scavenger enemy. Cool. Music. Reduced volume of boss fight music in the ritual site. Added new music to 35 zones across most chapters, including Monolith Hub and Echo of a World. Okie dokie, that would be cool. Skills. Bone Curse and its conversions have new effects. Temper Strike has new sound effects. New U sound, projectile sound, and hit sound to Arrow Nova. 2D audio parameter control for transplant. Cool. Changed hit sound on bone splinters, removed projectile sound from skeleton mages, changed explosion sound on ballistas, armed construction and explosive delivery nodes. Multi-strike base skills now has a new hit sound, replaced fire layer sound effects for volatile zombies. Devouring or volcanic replaced raptor footsteps sound effects. Changed the return sound effect for chakram. Added 2D sound functionality to chakram use sound. Wonder, is that binaural? Is that what they mean by 2D sound functionality? So if you hear it coming from one side, you'll hear it coming from the other, vice versa and whatnot. Voice acting. Acolyte has a new voice. Ah, that's nice. Admiral Harton has a new voice. Bless him. Large number of Imperial enemies now have spoken voice lines. Cool. Wengari enemies have new voice lines. Void cultists all have new voice lines. Drowned husks have new vocal sound effects. Cool. Replaced old portal sound that was on Monolith Portal to the new Town Portal sound, and given all player summons hit sound receivers that are set to player so they emit quieter hit sounds like the player. Increased volume of rain in the Dreadnought's deck global ambience, adjusted volume and mix for all MTX portals and pets, adjusted VFX and timings of many skills to align better with combat. Audio device is now selectable in the sound settings panel. Nice, especially for streamers like me. General skills and bug fixes. Probably not going to go through all of these unless I see the word Falconer Rogue or something. And fix lots and lots and lots and lots. Void cleave, smite, ignite. Okay, cool. Acolyte, sure. Mage, sure. Primalist, sure. Rogue, okay. Flurry was fucked, so let's see what they've done. Fixed a bug where multiple skills such as Flurry or Detonating Arrow would miss a target that it shouldn't. Ah, that's actually huge. That's actually huge. So it says multiple skills, so it's not just Flurry and Detonating Arrow, but there was like some you'd be fighting a boss and some would just go straight through the boss and you'd be like, huh? So that's actually huge. Glad that's fixed. Acid Flask. Acid Flask description now clearly states its initial explosion deals physical damage. Trickling Guts now clearly states that it's global damage over time modifier rather than a local one to the tree. Sure. Fixed the bug where Bleeding Fury would display its name as Firebrand. Shurikens. Fixed the bug where Shurikens could fail to cast if you transitioned to a new zone while Blade Shield was active in offline. Fixed the bug where Shurikens miss nearby targets. Cool. Alt text now states that added damage applies at 100% effectiveness. Cool. Sentinel, sure. Sentinel had so much to fix. System bugs fixes. Fixed a bug so minions will now travel with you into arenas correctly. Where dummies break in arena after transition scenes. Synchronize, sure. Controller, sure. Dungeons. I could cause dungeon boss doors to open in solo play before they pressed ready. Fixed a bug that would cause jarring transitions inside Temporal Sanctum. Fixed a bug that caused the 3 chests in the Sanctum archive to not drop any loot in online. Ooh. Monolith of Fate. Fixed damage value on damage and crit chance Monolith mod. Fixed a bug where players couldn't enter an echo if the host leaves it first. Fixed a bug where portaling notification would remain on screen after portaling in echoes. Fixed a bug where all Monolith waypoints were displaying a level 25. Fixed a bug where a user could no longer open menus via hotkeys after a different user opened a Monolith echo. What? Fixed a bug where echoes would fail to load and display already in progress after finishing. Sure. Fixed a bug where echoes would appear to load without a flaw. Fixed a bug where the reward rock and chest in Echo of the World scale a rarity based on the active echo instead of the echo that was just completed to get those rewards. Fixed a bug where using a return portal from Echo of a World puts you back in your last echo. I'm glad I didn't experience any of these. Address multiple issues that could cause critical matchmaking failures that result in errors such as infinite loading screens, disconnects, and huge. Server latency is now accurately reflected on login by pinging available servers. Nice. Fixed a number of bugs that caused infinite loading screens for online and offline monoliths. Nice. Fixed a bug that caused crash login disconnects from stashes. 4 stashes with over 4,000 items. Who are these people? Get help. Get help. I mean, I get it. I definitely get it. But 4,000! Fix problems with many different skills, so using them should feel more responsive and align better with hit timings. Nice. Fix problems with many visuals of player skills or enemy skills being invisible. Nice. Fix problems that have caused enemies or players to be invisible. Fix enemies in arena and monolith that not properly animating after spawning. Overhaul the social system in order to improve reliability and speed for creating and playing with parties. Addressed a number of problems that were specific to players portaling to each other. That was a thing, especially when they first added it. I would go and teleport to Hammer, and it would just put me in a random zone with random players, and I'd be like, hi guys. And they would be like wondering like, how the fuck did you get in our party? And I'm like, you don't want to know, because I don't know either. Fix the number of bugs that caused animations to play at a different time than attack for a number of skills, such as Smelter's Wrath. Fix some cases where using movement skills would result in rubber banding effects. Nice. Fix bugs that caused players to see themselves or other players with no equipment. That happened to me once. Fix a bug that allowed new players being able to connect to a server that's shutting down. Fix a bug with the chest not being clickable and some of the animations going missing. Fix a bug that caused infinite loading by rapidly clicking during the loading screen. Fix a bug where rejecting party invites from someone on the same scene triggers the party reject notification for everyone on the scene. Fix an issue where quest echo objectives were breaking. Fix an issue where quest list objectives would disappear. Bug where players would go invisible while playing in a party during monoliths. Fix a bug where using player portal back to town doesn't put you near your portal. I've seen that happen a few times actually. Fixed online character list regeneration after deleting an offline character. Fixed a bug causing top left party frames UI to not update on disband. Fixed a bug that caused some minimap quest pings not to function in online mode. Fixed a bug that caused the portal to open immediately upon joining a party in end of time. Okay. Lots of bugs. Lots of bugs. I'm not going to go through all the bugs. User interface, more bugs. I'm assuming it's pretty much all bugs from here on out. Zones. Yep. Okay. Cool. That was a lot. That was a gargantuan amount of stuff. I am very much looking forward to 1.0 in a couple of days' time. I will be playing at launch, assuming the servers do not utterly shit themselves, which might happen. Let's be honest. We've already seen that some games can be victim to their own successes. I suspect that Last Epoch or EHG have gone, okay, clearly we have gained popularity in the last few months, especially after the release of D4 and people have discovered other action RPGs exist that are better, and they are now interested in our game. So they likely expect that they're going to get a pretty good reception. But you never know how big that reception is. Helldivers 2, a victim of success. Their first game had like a peak of something like 12,000 players, and they probably expected maybe a couple of hundred at most for Helldivers 2, and they had to cap their servers to 400, I think it was 400, 450, something like that, because too many people want to play their game, and they're like, shit, we haven't got the capacity to hold you all. How do I hold all these players? So that may potentially be a thing with Last Epoch. There's going to be a lot of people. It's the Diablo 4 season started a month ago, which means everyone's finished it within the first week, so they've got something. They're looking for a new game. Path of Exiles League has been up for nearly 2 months now, if not more. So people are, again, likewise, on the tail end of their season and their leagues. So there's going to be a lot of people, and I think it's intentional, that have got their eyes on Last Epoch. But yeah, so just prepare. I hope they are prepared, but also anticipate that there is a likelihood of the servers going to shit and you not being able to play immediately. Just bear that in mind. And I have to bear that in mind, considering I'm going to be streaming it, and I'm potentially going to be sat there staring at waiting to join server queue, and it says 10 billion people. So just bear that in mind.